Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. I'm delighted to have you all here today. I am Kuhu Chauhan, and I take care of admissions and outreach at the Indian School of Public Policy. Before starting the discussion, I would like to give you an introduction about ISPP. A very brief introduction. So, ISPP was founded in 2018 by Mr. Louis Miranda and Dr. Parth Shah with a shared vision of creating the next gen of policy leaders for a rising India. We are dedicated to shaping the leaders of tomorrow to tackle the policy challenges of today. At ISPP, we offer a cutting edge curriculum, a world class faculty, and a vibrant community of scholars committed to advancing public policy. Thank you again for joining us today. And before we dive into today's discussion, let me introduce our team. We have Mr. Dhruva Mathur, Assistant Director of Executive Education, and Ms. Srija, our Associate Academic Coordinator. Thank you both for being a part of this session. Now, I would like to invite Dhruva to tell our attendees more about ISPP's teaching pedagogy, our offerings, and also to shed light on the PDM curriculum. Dhruva, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kuhu. Before we begin with the pedagogy, right, it's important to understand what is public policy, right? What is it that motivates all of you all to join us today at 7:30 p.m. to understand about what ISPP does? Let me ask a question in general, and maybe those in the audience can put their messages in the chat that we'll be able to see. Yeah, so let me ask you this. In this is one of the Scandinavian countries. Now, as you know that this organ donation is a very important healthcare issue, health policy issue, and every year there are lots of people who are who they have to deal with consequences because they're not able to get the necessary organs that they need in time. Now, in order to combat that, what many countries do opt is that when somebody passes away, they ask the family member if they would be if they would want to donate that body for organ donation. Now, again, for a lot of families, it's a very personal issue. There are lots of opinions and thoughts about that. So, how do you deal with that, right? That's the question for a policy expert. Now, what do you say if this were to happen in, say, in India, right, or in any other country? What would your policy position be that if you were to increase the number of people who opt to donate the bodies of their loved ones after they pass away? How do you encourage people to do that? Or do you force people to do that? What's the policy choice that you adopt?
I think it was more be of a dilemma.
Mhm.
It's a good cause. If I say personally, it's a good cause that you can donate your organs after you pass away so that it could help someone else. Having said that, yes, forcing somebody to do that would not be ethical.
Mhm. And so that's a issue that a lot of countries, and this is an issue that happened in one of the Scandinavian countries, I believe, that they had to deal with, right? How do you ensure the choice of the citizen is retained? What they did is that when somebody would pass away, they would circulate a form. Originally, the form used to have a line which used to say, "I agree to donate my loved one."
Opt-out policies, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes. And that they would say that, I agree to donate that body for, organ donation. Now, Nashi, that once you frame it like that, the question is really, do I want to do that or not, right? What the policymakers did is that they changed the question a little. They said, I do not want to donate my loved one's body, right? Now the framing itself has changed. So now what you as a citizen, the call that you're taking is like, that's something I don't want to do, right? So it's an active choice where your action has a direct consequence on somebody else's life, right? And that was what they did. And it's called known as the default option also, or the opt-in, opt-out option as well. Right now, as a result, a lot of people chose to donate their loved ones' bodies, right? Because nobody wanted to take that active call of not wanting to donate the body. That's public policy. So ultimately, public policy is really about understanding the needs of all the citizens and figuring out a way, most importantly, that you lift everybody's boat up without sinking anybody else's, right? That's the core tenet of public policy, and that's something that we strive to do here at ISPP. The pedagogy that we follow in order to do that is known as SPELL, where S stands for skill. Now, within public policy, there'll be certain skill sets which are core and critical, right, for policy making. So, for example, you need to be able to work with data, right? You also need to be able to communicate your findings to others. These are skill sets to have. So that's where the S comes in. So our coursework will teach you how do you work with data, how do you also communicate that data to ordinary citizens, to experts, and also to decision makers who do not really have the time to get into the nitty gritties, right? So they want information very quickly and in a manner that is reliable and authentic. So that's the skill set that comes in. The P stands for political economy. When you talk about any policy issue, you cannot divorce it from the socio-economic and political lens that it is framed in, right? Or it is situated in. So, for instance, when you talk about the farm laws, right, which our country was talking about a year or two ago, right? How do you set such an institution or policy up wherein you take care of the political aspect in Bihar, you also take care of the political aspect in Punjab, right? You also understand the economic reasoning for farmers not wanting to do that maybe in Punjab or maybe wanting to do that in other parts of the country, right? And what's the social context in which that whole issue is situated? So you need to understand the political economy of the issue as well. And that's where the P comes in, the political economy of policy making. The E stands for ethics. Now, in a policy space, right, you need to be very conscious of the choices you make. There often you will be felt, often as Kuhu earlier mentioned, policy making is a lot about dealing with dilemmas, right? Actions have consequences, and you need to be very conscious of that fact. How are you able to do that? Well, for instance, if you were, and this is an example we love to quote often, right? And you all can share your thoughts in the chat as well. If you see a murder happening on the street, right? And what do you do in that case, right? Do you report it or do you not report it to the police? Or if the police, gets to know about that event, do you show up as the witness for that prosecution or not? Yep, go.
I would again say it is again a kind of an ethical dilemma. One, if I want to be a righteous citizen, definitely I would like to report it also. I would like, if I am the witness and if I have been given that opportunity, or if I have that opportunity to actually make sure that the person who has committed the crime is punished, I would like to do so. But having said that, there are certain consequences that also comes with it that hold back a lot of people in taking the right step. So as I said, it is a kind of an ethical dilemma.
So let's for the purpose of this, that's a great answer, right? Because it's an ethical choice, but the ethical thing to do here is that you report it and you show up when the police, calls you in for a statement, right? And you tell them the truth, right? That's the ethical choice to do. Now let's tweak it a little. Let's say that this murder has happened, you witnessed it, and it turns out that you're actually a lawyer by training and by profession, and this murderer knows that, right? And so the murderer immediately reaches out to you and says, hey, you're going to be my lawyer, right? And for whatever reason, let's assume that you've accepted the case in this case, right? What do? You know the murder has happened, right? Which way does the hand of justice swing?
Okay, so again, a dilemma, I would say. So I think one is my personal ethics, and then being a lawyer, then a certain professional ethics, right? So how to find a balance between that? I think a public policy professional would help me here. So I think Dubai would be the right person to help me here.
Let me ask Shrija here. She's
Yeah.
come to our training, right? So Shrija, in this,
Yeah.
what does your training tell you?
So I think as a lawyer, I can always choose to accept it or not. But if I ever choose to accept it, then I'm going to fulfill my responsibility to my client. So I'm always, it's the same as a doctor's oath, right? You're still supposed to serve them as a doctor, irrespective of what crime they've committed. So once you've taken the conscious choice to represent someone, then obviously you will have to, well, represent them to your full authority. And I think that's also a choice people make. And it's important that you know what you're doing or what you're getting into. And that's very important. And that's also something that we learn in behavioral analysis class in terms of nudges and, things that drive us and what outcomes we want to achieve. And I think that's important to take into account.
So, it's when, Shreya is, of course, now an alum of the program. It's when, alums come in and make these statements. It makes you really proud as, somebody who's trained them because they've understood the crux of policy making. In this case, it's your professional ethics that take precedence, right? You have to be professional, you have to be ethically, professionally as well, and personally as well, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's the E part of the spell, right? Now it comes to the first L. L here also stands for leadership. Now, in general, a lot of people say that a leader is somebody who tends to listen to what the audience has to say or what the people have to say. An alternate to that we must consider and acknowledge is that when you talk about leadership, it's also about really understanding what is it that the audience is trying to say and then making the right choice. If your choice happens to differ from the choice of the rest of the public, the majority, right? It's your job and responsibility as a leader to tell them the truth, to show them what the right position might be or what the appropriate policy measure might be. And as a leader, it's your job to ensure that people understand that and they opt to go for that part. Remember again, right? You can't force people to choose a position. So you have to communicate it. And again, this connects with the S that we discussed, the skill set, right? You communicate it in a manner that motivates everybody to opt for the right choice. Right? That's the leadership training that we offer through the Antrang Leadership Lab, which Shija can tell you a bit more about, where we also take our scholars out for treks, which I'm sure
Yes.
you discuss that as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now coming to the last L, right? That stands for
Lifelong
lifelong learning.
learning.
And now, once you become a policymaker, it's very important to constantly acknowledge and be cognizant of the fact that you are never going to know everything. So it's always important and it's almost a duty as a policymaker for you to constantly learn and become a lifelong learner in that process. What we've done at ISPP is that we offer, and once you become an alum, you also get the opportunity to still attend a lot of sessions that we host. So guest lectures, or if there is somebody a panel discussion that we are hosting, or for instance, we recently launched a report which Shija was a part of and worked on, which he'll talk about a bit more. You get access to those events. You get access to those people as well, right? To constantly learn and get yourself updated. This entire framework of spell is very nicely captured by something that we call the policy practitioner's oath, which all of our graduates take at the end of the program. Where, as remember, as Srija earlier mentioned, doctors have to take the Hippocratic oath. In policy, what we've set up is the policy practitioner's oath, where once you graduate from the program, there are certain core tenets of our public policy pedagogy and our training that you acknowledge and you take a note to uphold throughout your training, throughout your professional service, right? So that's where the spell framework comes into play. Now, broadly, in terms of the curriculum, what we've done is, and you'll get more details of this in the brochure, which I'm sure you would have received on email, and we can also put in the chat right now, is that the curriculum is divided into 5 terms of 10 weeks each. The first 4 terms focus on courses, workshops, domains. In public policy, you, as a policymaker, you'll have to work across a range of domains. So, for instance, education, environment, health, right? So, you need to have knowledge about all of these things. These are some of the areas that we focus on in the domains. You can learn more about it in the brochure as well. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, there are workshops where, for example, leadership training is something that we do as and when if we realize that, say, the industry is giving us feedback that your students need to have an additional training, that's also something we open up. So what we constantly do is that we keep evaluating our curriculum regularly. That's the flexibility that we have, since we are not a part of any of the university systems right now. So for instance, if, say, the current cohort which is going to graduate in July, if right now we have a meeting of the academic advisory council or the career advisory council, and they come in and say, in the future we think this is a skill set that your students need to know or have, we have the flexibility to organize sessions on those, right, and train our students on that. And that's something we've done regularly and routinely as a matter of practice. So we'll also be doing a lot of that as well. Now, ultimately, the final term, the 5th term, is reserved for something known as the immersive learning experience or the internship program, where you go on site for 2 months. From this year, we are doing it from May 15th till about July 15th. where you go on site 5 days a week, you work with an organization to solve their policy challenges. That's where you really put all of your skill set into practice, right? You figure out what is the policy issue that needs to be addressed, you identify that, you figure out what's the policy that needs to be formulated for that particular issue, right? So this is where design thinking comes into play. This is where critical thinking comes into play. This is where your role as a leader comes into play, where you try to figure out, well, have you really analyzed the issue correctly? Have you understood the root cause? Do the others, are you able to build a policy community where others can have a consensus, come upon a consensus with you that this is the root cause that needs to be addressed, right? And that's how you frame the policy measure then there's of course the decision making, where a lot of our scholars also currently work with ministers or have in the past also worked with MLAs. In fact, Shija, I think it's your batch, right, where we had a bunch of scholars working with
Yes,
an
the
MLA.
Karnataka, yes.
Exactly. So they worked with an MLA in Karnataka on issues in their constituency and helped the MLA there come up with decisions that help improve the lives of citizens there.
They even had a 1 week, they got to go there to the actual area and got to see everyone and meet everyone as well. Yeah, yes.
That's the immersion, right? You are
Yeah.
down there on the ground trying to figure out how do you solve policy issues for the citizens. And following that, of course, once a decision has been made, it needs to be implemented. And so we also have a range of scholars working on implementation issues, right? For example, you decided that a certain measure had to be done, but somebody has to go in and put in the structures in place, right? Has to put in what has to be done in order to achieve these things. Yes. And ultimately, once adopted that position, put it into place, and so on and so forth, you need to understand, well, I took this policy decision. Are issues getting resolved because of my decision or because of some other factor that's come into play, right? Monitoring and evaluation. So, for example, we are based out of Delhi, where often one of the issues that comes up is air pollution, right? Now, say you are a policymaker, you join the government and you decide, well, I'm going to solve the problem of air pollution in March. We are in March right now. The air pollution index is 139. Amazing for Delhi, right? And you say, well, I'll put in these giant air purifiers across the city, and voila, the problem gets solved, right? But that's not due to your action. February is a time where generally AQI is low, right? So there are other factors that have come into play. So your job as a person in monitoring and evaluation, and we've had scholars who have gone on to work in organizations like JPAL, which does a lot of evaluation work as well, where your job is to figure out, I took a decision, what are the consequences of my decision, right? What is the outcome and what is the longer run impact that my decision has had? So as a policymaker, that is the range of opportunities that you'll have at your disposal. And it's also the range of skill sets that we train you in as a policy scholar at ISPP. So with that, I hand it over to Kohu.
Oh, thank you, Dhruva, for explaining it to us so beautifully. You mentioned immersive learning experience, right? And I think we have the right candidate who went through that training here. And it would be a great understanding for our attendees also, that what kind of training we give at ISPP before you venture out into the real world and actually, contribute to complex policy challenges. So Srija, if you could, throw some light on what was your experience at the ILE, that is immersive learning experience. What was the learning that that you took from it, and how was the overall experience?
Yeah. So, like Dhruva just mentioned, the Karnataka ILE, but what I got to do was work with Jubilant Foodworks, as many of you know, is the owners of Domino's. So it's Domino's
Yes.
mother company. But so I also worked in the Domino's department. But I worked in their policy space, which meant that I got to think of some sort of tourism areas in Karnataka, lesser known tourism areas in Karnataka, and give recommendations on why I chose those places to set up food trucks. So basically, they wanted to expand their food industry and expand more branch out their Domino's food stalls and add food trucks to the lesser known tourism spots. And why did I recommend these areas? For example, was my project. So it was a 3-month project. It was actually a 2-month project. It got extended to 3 months because they wanted me to see through the project completely to the final stage. But I was given full authority over how I did it and my own timeline. And it was offline, so I only had like meetings every week or so with my supervisor who guided me through my points. But basically the end of my project was to submit a white paper proposal. Again, there are different proposals that you can submit, which again you will get to learn during our writing and communication lab, which happens. So that's something that you will get to learn and work on as well. But thankfully I got to work on a white paper proposal and submit it to their my manager, and who basically put in front of the company. Now that also meant that I got to make my own questionnaire because I couldn't go to Karnataka. And so I got to make a questionnaire, send it to people on the ground. So they gave me all of my answers. I collected all that information, analyzed it, and put it as a proposal to them saying, this is why I'm suggesting these areas, and this is what we should do. And that was my project. And that was a whole 3-month thing that I did at the end of it. And again, this was my ILE experience. But for my internship, I was very grateful, and still I'm grateful to my professor, Mr. O.P. Agarwal, who's one of the professors at ISPP. He offered me a research internship under him to work on the administrative report for a Viksit Bharat. You can find the brochure for the report as well on our website. So that is there. I worked on it for 4 months. And so we basically came up with broad themes. And the theme that I worked on was risk-taking. How do we enable risk-taking in the civil services? That was what I researched on. And the paper's out, the report's out, it's being read everywhere. And so that's also an amazing opportunity I got only because of ISPP. So yeah. And after that, I also got to work with the think tank, Observer Research Foundation, which again was a placement I got through ISPP. And that was also a process where they had come to ISPP to recruit certain people. I had to give 2 interviews. And yeah, so that was not an opportunity I probably would have gotten elsewhere, because to even get into Observer Research Foundation was not something I could even imagine. So yeah. And I
Thank
think
you,
my
Pooja.
experiences and skills I learned here actually helped during my work as well. So yeah.
In fact, one thing that I thought I'll come in and say is that I think maybe the one, I guess, sad part of the Domino's experience was that they didn't pay you in pizzas, did they?
No, no.
Yeah.
No.
So that's that. But the interesting thing there is also, right? Come to think of it, the work that Shrija pulled off at Jubilant, that's not a traditional policy industry. Right? That's a job traditionally you would expect a marketing person or an ops person to do. And that's the range that policy making is now getting into, really. In fact, on LinkedIn, if you were to search for, policy jobs maybe 10 years ago, basically, I mean, at least some of us here in this meeting are that old. We were searching for jobs 10 years ago. But when you were doing that, there were very few companies that actually talked about having an MPP. You do that right now, right? And you go to LinkedIn and you just search for policy jobs. The first requirement that all of these jobs have is that you need to have a policy background, right? You need to have had a study, you need to have studied public policy, right? So that's the change that the industry has gone through. And the beautiful part about that is that the scholars get that opportunity to understand the change that the industry is going through a lot of TN policy sessions that we organize at ISPP. So in fact, we recently had the CEO of one of the biggest think tanks in the country come in for a TN policy session, right? Where the idea is it's a small group of students, right? Those who are really interested in that field and that sector, they get to have a one-on-one interaction, a small group meeting with these, stalwarts, where you can ask them firsthand, what are the challenges they're facing in the industry, what is the future that they see for that industry, for the organization, and what are the skill sets they would like their ideal employees to have. And that is feedback that you get one on one with them. You get that exposure, you also get that opportunity to network with them. So in fact, you will, as a ISPP scholar, you'll also get the opportunity to go to a lot of conferences, right, where you get to meet a lot of dignitaries. In fact, after generally around, once the coursework is over, what a lot of in May, what a lot of scholars I have seen they tend to do on LinkedIn is that they do conference hopping, right? Because Delhi is the hub of policy making, really, right? So there's always a conference or a meeting or get together happening. Through the ISPP network, they get access to those conversations. They're able to attend those that interest them. They're also able to attend those that they would just like to attend for, because it's something that might be interesting, right? And they tend to attend a lot of those throughout the year as well. So that's the exposure and network that you get by doing the program at ISPP in New Delhi.
I think I would just like to add one thing. Dhruval, what you shared and what Srija shared, if I have to sum it up, whether it is TN policy sessions by the renowned personalities, whether it is guest lectures from renowned personalities. The last I could remember is Mr. Montek Singh Aluwalia doing a session for our students. They're getting a chance to interact with him, ask questions in the particular field. And again, I would just reiterate TN policy sessions, the guest faculty sessions, the immersive learning experience, the internship that Shrija mentioned, working on a Viksit Bharat report with a personality like OP Agarwal itself, actually molds you for the career ahead. So what I'm trying to say here is it's not just when you join ISPP, it's doing a course, getting a placement. ISPP is there to provide you a comprehensive career support in terms of helping you identify and pursue that particular domain in public policy, which helps you not in just getting your first placement, but also in future. And I think we have, yeah, please.
In terms of domains as well, they give you a lot of options. So you can always explore to see which is the one that speaks to you a lot as well, and something that you have an interest that you might not have thought, oh, this might be something I might be interested in. So that's also a big selling. I mean, for me, it was personally very helpful to figure out which field I wanted to get into.
And just one thing, like a lot of attendees, whenever we do ask us anything, has questions regarding the placement services. What kind of placements we'll get? What are the recruiters that come to ISPP? What are the roles and responsibilities? What are the job like that we, after doing a course in public policy, we'll get? What are the packages? I think we have the right people here. So Dhruva, let's start with you. How ISPP helps in providing a career solution to the candidates, and then I would love Shrija to actually take her through her placement journey. How was her placement journey while working with OR? I think Observe It. I'm so sorry, Shrija, you have to help me with the name.
Observer Research Foundation, ORF.
Observer Research Foundation. I always get confused. I say ORJ instead of ORF. So Dhruva, over to you.
One of the things that I've often uh, wondered and rather say regretted is that when I was I mean I'm a young professional, I'd like to say, but back in the day when I was just getting into policy making, one of the challenges was policy making was a new field to me, right? And I would have loved to have somebody who could mentor me, whom I could have conversations with about what the sector is like, what are the various opportunities. And that's something that SPP takes care of almost within the first month or two, where each scholar is assigned a mentor to work with them throughout the year. And again, it's not just a relationship that ceases to exist at the end of a single year, right? It's a relationship that continues way after you graduate. I mean, I've had scholars since 2019 who are still in touch with their mentors and actively, taking advice from them, seeking guidance from them. So that's the first thing that ISPP offers, wherein you're in the policy space now. So you need somebody to be your thinking board, so to say, right? Where somebody you can bounce ideas off and like you can have discussions with. So each scholar is assigned a mentor, and they have a choice in the selection process as well, right? So they're able to select from a range of mentors, a few of them who they feel they would be a very good fit for. So for instance, if I were at ISPP now and this was an option that was given to me, I would definitely have chosen somebody who's, say, getting into the education space, right? Because that is a sector I would like to work in. So I'd hear from them as to what their experiences have been. The second thing that comes in after you join ISPP is that you have an in-depth conversation with the careers team, right? Where we have an office of career services, where we have people who are looking into not just, having conversations with companies and getting them to come to campus, but also having conversations with you to help you grow professionally. And where these often the conversations are more about understanding from you what your interests are, what are the skill sets that you have, what are the things that you think you'd like to improve, right? They also share feedback with you in terms of if you're interested, for example, like Shrija is at working in a research space, right, where then you need to know how to write really well, right? You need to know how to communicate really well, so they'll give you that guidance, right? And they'll also give you exercises, for that matter, even a mock, they'll do mock interviews with you, mock writing assignments that organizations actually do give in the interview process. So that's the feedback you get. That's the counseling that you get from the Office of Career Services. Now, in addition to that, of course, there's one person who's solely dedicated to working with our scholars on helping them grow professionally. But also, we've got a team that who reaches out actively to the companies, right? So we every year we have conversations with at least 150 companies or so, and the list keeps growing every year, right? And what we do is we try to get them, not just to get them to campus just for, say, guest lecture and that's it, right? Our focus here is on building relationships. So you'd get them in, you'll have conversations with them, and that's a network that stays with you for life, right? You also have at ISPP, we also, it's a very close-knit community. So you also have very good access to not just the faculty who are often then campus and stay back after their teaching hours for office hours. In fact, a lot of our faculty members in fact, all of our faculty members are really nice people. So what you tend to experience as a scholar is that say like courses scheduled for 24 hours, but the faculty feels that there's more that they can give to you, they can share with you, right? So they may extend the course to 30 hours. That's additional time that you get with the faculty as well, right? That's happened in the past as well. And in addition, you of course get opportunities to do office hours with them. You are also able to actively reach out to anybody within the team or within the faculty member, right? There is often enough when you go into institute, for higher learning, and this is something that I experienced when I got into public policy, is that I was reluctant and nervous to often reach out to my professors or alums or seniors. That's not the culture at ISPP, where you are very free to reach out to anybody, have conversations with them, get their perspective on issues, right? So it's a very close-knit community that you get access to. And of course, placements is something that is important and critical. So it's not just something that we offer as a one-off exercise. It's a continuous process that runs throughout the year. Our focus here is to really help you grow professionally into the wonderful policymakers that you will eventually definitely become. Yep. Cool.
Okay, so we have a very interesting question from the attendees. So, does ISPP provide an outlook to the international level of public policy? Or is it predominantly based in India in collaboration with the Indian government? Dhruv, I think you will be the right person to answer this.
Let me answer this, and maybe then Shrija maybe you could share your experiences, right?
Yes, she could add on to it for sure.
What that exposure has been. So, ISPP has a collaboration with the Harris School of Public Policy, which is based out of the University of Chicago, where as part of the coursework that you do at ISPP, you also get the opportunity to earn a credential in public policy and international development from the Harris School. As part of that, we organize lectures by faculty members associated with the University of Chicago. You are expected to attend those lectures, submit an assignment, and if you're able to meet all of those requirements, you get a certificate at the end, right? From not just from ISPP, but also an additional credential from the Harris School of Public Policy. That's the international focus that's there. But we also extremely grounded in the realities of an emerging India that is increasingly facing bold policy, that increasingly has bold policy decisions to make, right? At a time where you have a citizenry where a certain set of the citizenry is well off, another set is getting better off, and another set is still a group where we need to, ensure that services still reach to them, right? Because they still may not have reached to them. So that's the grounded reality that we work in. So the programming is designed in a manner where at the end of the program, you're in a position not just to work with um, a government body, which a lot of our scholars do end up working with. You're also in a position to work with a consulting firm, right, or a corporate organization. You're also in a position to work in a non-profit space. So really, what we are offering here is a canvas for policy making, right? And it's up to you the paints that you throw on it. Our job is to make sure that you become really good painters of public policy. Again, very cheesy dialogue in that sense. But the idea here is we are offering you the training and skill set necessary for you to make your own independent decisions, right? And we're always there to help guide you and work with you in the process. And maybe I would like to actually ask Shrija. So when you were, a scholar here, right?
Yeah.
When you joined in, what was that canvas like, right? And
Okay.
what were some of the experiences that you had that helped shape and make you become the professional that you are?
Yeah. So I think I was pretty much a blank canvas when it came to just trying to absorb everything that I got, because I came from a UPSC background, and I was like, I want to do something with everything that I'm learning, I'm reading, not able to like put that in anywhere. And the like ISPP in itself gave me like that. I now call it a safe space where I could experiment, just do whatever I wanted and be like, it's fine. Even if you fail, we will teach you and you can go from there, something like that. And when it comes to like international policies, a lot of our classes, a lot of the faculty take case studies from different countries as well. Like personally, there was an M40 class where one of my assignments was trying to find organ donation, and like Roa spoke about organ transplantation,
So
and
if
but
you have to
uh,
tell us what is M4D and what does it cover?
markets for development. So it talks about like different markets and how, markets for development for natural resources, how the policy space works there, and what are the connections and stuff like that. Now, the very important point why I'm coming to this is my assignment was trying to figure out the different organ transplantation, the policies in a country that is not India, right? So, and also all the countries that was mentioned in class. Now, what did I do? I was like, okay, I chose Croatia. Now, in all of my wildest dreams, I did not know that Croatia had a well thought out organ transplantation system. But that was something that I found out, and that was a case study that I properly worked on and could write a paper on, which was already also submitted in class. So that's somewhere where you get to explore these places. And obviously we were given like help, and I got to talk to my professor a lot about this. And I got to like speak to other professors as well, people in the field, to help me guide me through this process. And we get access to a lot of research papers too, because ISPP has that facility where they give you access to some of these sites where you get those research papers as well. And that's one of the things that I worked on. And also, the Harris School of Public Policy, one we are forgetting is the Chester Kocher Scholarship that ISPP also offers. One of my really close friends, Mariana Gandhi, actually is currently a scholar at the Harris School of Public Policy, and she was given a scholarship, and she's currently studying there. So that's also something that you can maybe opt for once you join the course.
Right.
So
That's an interesting fact that you bring in there, where a lot of our scholars, after they join the program, some also decide to pursue further studies. So the Chester Kocher Scholarship is one of those, processes that enables you to do that, where you're eligible as an ISPP alum to receive a scholarship to study for a master's program at the University of Chicago. In addition, a lot of our scholars also go on to do their PhDs. So we've got scholars who are currently doing their PhDs at Georgia Tech, at American University, and so on. And there are scholars who have also gone to Oxford University, did their masters there, and an additional masters, worked there for some time, and then, of course, they opted to return and are now doing wonderful things here in India. So there's a range of opportunities there. Our job really is to help you think about things, to help you become somebody who can really start questioning policy issues, right? And understanding their nitty-gritties, and then making decisions on your own based on what you worked out as the right solution. We are there to guide you, to assist you, and to always address any questions, queries, or concerns that you might have.
Okay, so we have two questions. One is for admission process, one is for placements. So I'll go with step by step. So let's take the admission question. So we have, what is the certification period? What is the admission process? How many seats are available and what is the fee? Okay, so I'll summarize it for you, Sri Ramaraju. So the admission process is pretty simple. You go to the website, you register yourself, you get the details from ISPP about ISPP also, and an application form link. You fill out the application form. The eligibility criteria is all there on the website. You need to have a minimum of 50% in the graduation, and you have to focus in your application form on the statement of purpose. So we receive a lot of inquiries regarding the statement of purpose. So the reason we have a section of our statement of purpose, that gives the candidate also the chance to evaluate, to understand, and to actually analyze his or her short-term and long-term career goals. So it is kind of a food for thought for you, that why do you want to enter into public policy? A, what are your goals while you enter public policy? You want to work with government, you have a social drive, you want to work for in the nation building, you want to work with ministries, anything could be possible. Why you want to choose public policy as a domain? Secondly, we want to understand why you want to choose ISPP as your vehicle to, for your career path. So that is the second question. We want to understand that why you want to choose ISPP for that, for pursuing your, dream in public policy. So statement of purpose holds a very important role. Once you are thorough with your application process, submitting all the documents that are being asked, those are the generic documents, your mark sheets and transcripts. We shortlist your applications. Upon shortlisting, you go through our ISPP Policy Aptitude Index that consists of a written assessment and an interview. So the written assessment has 4 parts. A, it has a section on quantitative aptitude, which comprises of basic arithmetic. We have a section on logical reasoning. We have a section on English comprehension. And we have a section on situational judgment analysis, where you are given certain situations and you have to choose what is best according to you. That comprises the written assessment. As soon as the written assessment is over, you will go through an interview, personal interview that would be done by our esteemed faculty and alumni. Once you clear the interview process, of course, we'll be more than happy to have you at ISPP as one of our scholars. Having said that, there are certain parameters that we are trying to understand when we take the ISPP Policy Aptitude Index. So those parameters I could easily, summarize into the 5 C's that we have identified internally, that these are the 5 C's that we look in a candidate when they come for a course at ISPP. Those are basically competency, commitment, camaraderie, critical thinking, and character. All these 5C becomes an integral part, and these becomes the parameters that you are evaluated against. So this, I'm sure I must have answered the process, that this is the wholesome process of your selection at ISPP. This is the selection process. How many seats are available? So we have a limited number of seats available with us, and a lot of seats are already occupied in the first round of admission cycle, and we are on the verge of completing our second round of admission cycle, and we'll have our second ISPP Policy Aptitude Index on 29th, 30th of March. So anybody who's interested, I would request them to apply ASAP so that you have the time to, practice for the written assessment and interviews and avail the support from our team for the same. And what is the fee? And lastly, the question is, what is the fee? So the fee for the course is 8,40,000 plus GST. And I think I have answered all the questions. And what is the certification period? It is a 1-year full-time program. You get 2 certifications, one from ISPP and once, as Dhruva and Shrija mentioned, from Harris School of Public Policy. So these are the 2 certifications that you will get after you do a course, after you do a 1-year full-time course with ISPP. And the next question that we have is there a placement report available that we can go through? Yes, there is a placement report available on our website. You can easily go, have a look. And we'll also share the link in the chat box so that you can directly, avail the placement report from there. Having said that, coming on to the placements, let me circle back to Shrija. and let her share the experience with the research foundation that she worked with.
So, Observer Research Foundation was one of the many companies that had come for placements at ISPP. And obviously, there was a JD that came out, and my role there was more in operations and administration. There was a little bit of research, but not focused on research. So that meant the first initial interviews was people they selected, the candidates that they liked, and there was an initial interview with a bunch of people. And then once they selected the candidates that they thought were fit, we had another in-person interview, which we had to go to their office for, which is in ITO. And after that process, they came back with us and said, this is the position that we have, this is what we're offering you. And that's how I got through that. And while during my interview process as well, a lot of the questions they asked was the work that I'd done when I was in ISPP. So a lot of the assignments that I did are not just for classwork. They can actually build your CV as well, because you can talk about the reports that you write, the op-eds that you probably published, and stuff like that as well, that actually really helps you in your interviews, because they want to know whatever knowledge you've learned obviously is important, but how you're putting it into work. And that really helped me, because that built up my CV as well. And also the internship that I did with OPSA, because that helped me like talk to those people who work in the government, within the IOC CEO and stuff like that. That was already like, the exposure that I got was very important, because ORF, as some people who here might know, also works with like the Ministry of External Affairs, the Ministry of waterways and stuff like that, and do a lot of events with a lot of these different countries, governments, companies as well. So that really helped me in the way I got my placement as well. So
Thank you, Shrija, for sharing the experience.
yeah.
And one regular question that we always get is, what is the average CTC that a public policy professional get? So I'll ask both of you. Dhruva, you first. In terms of what is the package range to be put into direct words? What is the average CTC? How it has been growing from the past 3 to 4 years? So if you can just share some details for that.
Sure, absolutely. So the average range hovers between 8 lakhs to 9 lakhs, and that's usually the average package. And again, the overall range also depends on you as an individual and the skill sets that you bring to the table, what you absorb from the program. And ultimately, what is the alignment between perhaps your previous experiences, or perhaps, your interest, what you've done at ISPP, and the jobs that you're applying to. So the range generally hovers between 6 to 16 lakhs as well. Now, the overall range for the programs. Every year, there's been an increase overall. And in fact, even during the COVID years, there was, continuous placements that we were able to get and secure placements for the entire batch. So in that sense, again, the ranges are between 8 to 9 lakhs. What's also incredibly important here is that what we've been able to do now is that we of course have a core set of organizations who frequently visit the campus for recruitment. We're also expanding into new and uncharted domains, so to say, right? So example, Srija's Jubilant Foodwork story is part of that uncharted territory that we are now getting into. And so we are expanding the scope and range of work that there's also to do as a policy professional. So that might be something also that might interest a lot of y'all.
That I have to ask Srija this. Srija, after you're completing the program with ISPP, you went on to work with ORF. This time I
Yes, you're right.
Right?
Yes.
So the question that I want to ask, I saw that twinkle in your eye when you were talking about your internship, your ILE experience, or your
Yeah.
ORF experience.
Yeah.
And what I want to ask you is that while you were sitting for placements, while you were on the verge of completing your course, what was your mindset? Was it more in terms of the package, the number that you were receiving, or was it changed when you joined? Because a lot of people who joins have this, a lot of candidates have this question of a number, that what would be, what is the average number, or what is the minimum bar that I would finally land up to. But what I have also seen is a lot of candidates, while they go through the course, their perspective also changes, And I think that is important, and that is why I'm asking you this question. How
Yeah.
was the process? So before, when you joined in, what was
Mhm.
your take towards placements? And while you were actually entering into the policy world, what was your take? So what became more important? The number, the work? How was it for you?
Okay, if I'll be absolutely honest with you. When I was looking to take admission at ISPP, I was told you have 100% placement. And obviously, that was a selling point for me. Uh, but because a lot of these,
And I think we stood by that.
Yes, you have, because our entire class got placed. So no complaints there. But
By the way, may I add that I think this was by September and you all graduated like 24th, 25th July. So
yes, yes.
September, everybody was already placed.
Yep. And I think the people who were left off till September were people who kept rejecting job offers because they're like, we're going to get something better. So, yeah. But I mean, going back to it, obviously, like money and the package I was going to get was important to me. I will not lie. But it's actually really ironic because the job that I ended up taking did not really pay me very well. But the job profile really interested me. So I was like, you know what? The experience is worth it. And so I went for it. And I was really happy with it. Because the amount of learning and the amount of skills and just being in that organization, being a part of it was really important to me. And not just personally, I know a bunch of people who've gone on to work for NGOs, who've gone on to work for like these small startups and institutions like that, where they're probably not getting paid like a big private institute, but they're very happy in their job profile and the things that they get to contribute to. So I think that's also very important, and that's something I've learned through ISPP, that sometimes it's important what I am getting out of it and what I'm able to contribute as well, because your mindset kind of changes that way. So yeah.
Thank you, Shrija. That is the answer I was looking for. And before we wind up this session, because we're running around the clock, I just wanted to tell our attendees that this year ISPP has introduced special scholarships for women to promote women in public policy, to encourage women from all backgrounds, from different cities, to come forth and pursue their passion in public policy. For any of those details, you can always call us, you can visit our website, you can write to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer all your queries. Let me just check if we have one last question from Sri Ramaraju. So for working professional, is there a part-time option instead of a full-time program? Yes, we do have a part-time option. I think Dhruva really headed that section, that area for quite a good time. So Dhruva, if you can just help us with those part-time options here.
Did that? Did you change my job profile? I'm still working on executive education programs at ISPP. We've got a range of programs that we offer as part of, for working professionals. One of the programs that, in fact, we'll be running on 22nd March is on policy communication. On how do you, as a professional, work in the public policy and communicate your ideas to the government and other actors. There's a range of programs that we run there. What we can do is maybe we can share a link with you in the chat of the range of options there. Another program that might be of interest is the Lokniti program, which is an online program, a hybrid model where most of the classes are online and we meet twice in person for 3 days for panel discussions, conversations, and lectures. So that's also something that we do offer. We can put those details up in the chat for you all to check out. The program is called Lokniti. And if you just search ISPP Executive Education, you'll also get the array of programs that we offer.
Thank you, Dhruva. So yes, at ISPP, we offer programs, full-time program, that is the postgraduate program in public policy design and management. And we offer a lot of executive education programs for working professionals who cannot take a year off. Please go visit our website, ispp.org.in. You can find all the details there, or you can call us on the number registered on our website, and we'll be more than happy to get in touch with you. And with that note, I would like to thank all the attendees for taking out the time, and all the panelists, Dhruva and Shrija, for being a part of this webinar. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.